Good evening and welcome back to Be Rich. Me and my brother are in Singapore, and we come to you live from Singapore. Yesterday, when I was watching the New York Times paper, I found that there was a hot mic movement in the talks between Xi Jinping and Putin in Beijing, as they were planning to go to the attend the parade, and both Putin and Xi Jinping confirmed this conversation took place. Now, what was this conversation? They both were discussing organ transplants and advances in medical science, and they both predicted that a human can expect to live at 150 years. No health specialist I have talked to or looked at it. Even Peter Atria doesn't talk about 150 years. But I assume that both are delusional and think that they can live forever and they can rule forever. Anyway, this is the way authoritarians think, and there is a big gathering of authoritarian rulers in China. What Trump has succeeded is making sure all the authoritarian figures of the world unite with China and give a united presence. And Trump was definitely flabbergasted, and he does not know what to say at this point of time. Looks like he has been outmaneuvered, and so what he says doesn't make sense. Now, why am I telling you all this? Because there was rumors yesterday that gold price will correct immediately once the geopolitical tensions hit. What I'm trying to tell you is the way it is going, geopolitical tensions are going to get worse, not get better. To discuss this with me, I have my brother Vinod, who is now ready to record.
This quest for the eternal youth, fountain of youth, has been a thing by all emperors and dictators and strongmen throughout history. Even the Chinese first emperor was very famously remembered for spending a lot of his energy towards the tail end of his life, looking for the fountain of youth. And back then they believed Mercury was, of all things, the source of fountain of youth. And even his tomb, they found high quantities of mercury buried with him, because he thought that would give him eternal life. So this quest for eternal life by all strong men who have power is eternal. So I can understand why Putin and Xi Jinping feel terrible, because they have worked all very hard all their lives and they managed to grab the seats of power. Now to let go and relinquish this, it's difficult. That's why even Trump is wishing that he could somehow write it such that as soon as the first thing he did when coming back into presidency was starting rumors that he's going to run for a third term, that he'll do some special rule, like how Putin did. He's trying to do something. But that set aside, this whole notion that the geopolitical things are going to settle down and things are behind us is far from true, and Anand is absolutely right. But like I was talking about in the cognitive dissonance video, the world seems to be living in a parallel reality from what is really happening. We as investors have to learn to understand the context of what is happening and not just rely on data points. The tendency of value investors is we get carried away with data point analysis and we deep dive into data sets and think we have understood everything. But if you don't understand the context of these data points, then you'll be at a loss, and that is what Anand is trying to warn you about. So what is this context, Anand, which you're trying to tell us?
What I'm trying to tell you is the Ukraine war is not going to end tomorrow. Putin has sent out a clear message saying either you surrender or we strike you and do you with force. Kim Il-jung has honored the Russia of North Koreans who have died in the Russian front as great martyrs. So the war is going to continue. It is Trump who is very eager to settle for peace, not anyone else, because he thinks he has a chance at the Nobel Prize. So Trump and the Europeans are going to be forced to support Ukraine more, and this war is going to drag on. This is point number one, and therefore gold is not going to correct because of that. Russia and China are going to keep buying gold, so there will be a floor below which gold will not go in the next 18 to 24 months. The next point is the American labor market is showing signs of weakness. So all the growth you are seeing in capex is coming in AI. This is a once in a lifetime boom in AI markets. And this is more and more work is going in investing in computers and other things in the artificial intelligence space. And like somebody warned us, this is an early stage of a bubble. Sooner or later, this bubble has to burst, which means then America goes straight down. If there is no AI related investments, America is already staring at recession. The movement of American stocks can be divided into two. One is the Magnificent Seven, and then the rest of the stocks. Now, the Magnificent Seven did well, and when in India, Nvidia seems to have topped out temporarily, what has happened is Google and Apple have filled the breach, with Mehta, Justice Mehta giving them a very soft judgment. So Google and Apple rallied yesterday, and to keep the market interested, long-term bond yields in America, 30-year bond markets, have brushed with 5. That means to lend to Uncle Sam for the next 30 years. People say, give me 5% interest, or else. What does that say? That in the long term, the market expects inflation to come. But in the short term, Trump is trying every trick in the book to try to get his people inside the Federal Reserve. So yesterday was a sign of a man who's a Trump junkie to be appointed as Fed governor. But that posting opens only till January. But still Trump wants to fill it so that he can get somebody to vote against him, vote with him on September 17th and 18th. The rally in gold is because Jerome Powell has said he will cut rates now. So if there's a rate cut, which is what the market has already discounted, the gold has reached this level. With continued central bank buying and FDIP, if the Fed Reserve's trying to cut rates, you are trying to go, gold is going to go up. And if inflation comes, as Goldman Sachs and everybody is promising, then after 2-3 rate cuts, they have to start increasing interest rates again. That is the time we'll have to see what will happen to gold. But Trump is dead set that there can be no increase in interest rates. And he is willing to even meddle with the Fed. In the last 50 years, no American president has meddled with the Fed. Meddling with the Fed means that technocrats are no more in control in money supply. And so Trump can print what he wants, which is what he wants to do. So this will lead to the devaluation of the dollar and the strengthening of the gold. And some bad news for Americans. This is exactly what is playing out in the trade that is playing out in the market. So if one is smart, you avoid the Magnificent Seven. Google's day in the sun is over. So even avoid Google and wait patiently for the market to correct in America. This is what I think. And bond yields have to come down to some sense of normalcy.
And what Anand says is absolutely true. And this is not only the Americans who are struggling. We see the G7 countries, all of them, the 30-year bond rate, interest yield has been going up steadily. UK has gone somewhere else in another stratosphere altogether. And the British pound recently also dropped against the dollar massively, showing you there is huge problems throughout the world. It's just not an American problem. This is a problem which is spread, contagion has already spread throughout the world after what Trump started the year with. So there is a lot of pain throughout the world in all kinds of currencies. Forget only the dollar being the reserve currency. We're talking about all developed economies are struggling. Germany, their 30-year bond rates are up. Take France, take Italy, take UK, which I just spoke about. So this pain is there throughout. And specifically, and even we're talking about the Magnificent Seven, Apple has promised, Tim Cook has promised some kind of secret massive launch, some secret surprise he's got for everybody. And if that falls flat, you can expect the Apple share also to correct on the coming days when the iPhone 17 launches and it doesn't please the investors. Looking at the history and the track record so far and whatever leaks there are, it is not going to be anything great. It seems to be more of a PR stunt coming from Tim Cook. So like Anand said, Google, that initial burst is over. Even Apple looks like it will correct by end of the week. So keeping all this in mind, be careful when you make any investment plays out there. Stay in small lanes. Do not take huge exposures in this market. Being in gold is a very wise thing to do, at least in the short term. So this is what Anand is trying to get at. This is the kind of context you should always look at when you see these data points. I hope this helps and you found this informative and entertaining as always. From me and Anand here in Singapore, we wish you a wonderful evening for all of you in Chennai and the rest of the world. We wish you well from Singapore. See you again tomorrow with another video. Thank you.
Thank you for supporting Be Rich.